Hi and welcome to the third video, creating a database. Now we are going to see how to create a database using the SQL Server 2008 database management system. Let's begin. Creating a SQL Server database. What are the steps involved in creating a database? The first step is to understand the given problem and figure out what are the essential data items which are necessary to be included. Let's take an example. Suppose that you want to create a database which would contain the details of your friends. Now, the essential details in the database would be your friend's name, address, mobile number, email ID, etc. Therefore, you can ignore the unimportant information like your friend's blood group, his or her GPA, etc. So, the key is to filter out of the vast amount of data items only those which need to be considered for solving the given problem. The second is to create the database using the SQL Server 2008 command prompt. The third is, of course, to fill data into the database. Now let's take a look at how this can be done. Step 1, as we have seen, is to understand the problem. Analyze the problem and abstract the essential details that are to be stored. For example, if you want to construct a database of the grocery items that are to be bought, the essential facts would be name, type and cost. We need not bother about the less significant data like ISI certificate number or the ingredients from a daily user's perspective. So the bottom line is, take the important stuff and ignore the rest. Step 2, create the database. So the next step is to actually create the database schema. So what is a schema? A schema is a structure of a database which is described in a DBMS language like SQL. So for the grocery database, the schema for table of items may look like this. It will have a number of fields like the item number, item name, item type and cost. And it will have a set of records, milk, Ferrero Rocher, etc. So over here, you can observe that the item number is treated as a primary key or simply a key. So as we have seen earlier, a primary key is an entity which is used to uniquely identify a particular record in a table. So a database may contain any number of tables. Now let's analyze the question of why a primary key is essential in a database table design. Now say Mr. John is searching for details of an item, milk, in a grocery table which doesn't contain a primary key. So the result would be that more than one record is selected, which is not a precise way of searching. Consider the same table design. The only difference is that in this scenario, it contains a primary key, which is item ID. So if the same Mr. John wants to search for an item, he can use this primary key, 1 or 2, in order to search for an item, and an exact match is found by the computer. So this kind of search is more precise. Hence, always include primary keys in your database design. Creating a database. So there are three major steps involved in creating a database. The first is to open the SQL Server command prompt, type in the SQL Server command for creating that particular database that you want, and the third is to run it. Sounds simple, right? Before we start analyzing the command and the syntax, we need to understand that the SQL, which is structured query language, consists of three major subsets based upon the nature of the commands. They are DDL, which stands for Data Definition Language, which lets you create, edit and modify databases. A DML, which stands for Data Manipulation Language. As the name states, it lets the user manipulate in the data, like insert, update and delete. And that's last but not the least, the DCL, which is a Data Control Language. It is mainly used to authorize users or group of users to access and manipulate a particular database or information set. The SQL command for database creation falls under the DDL language category, which is data definition language, as it lets the user define the database structure. So the first step would be to open the SQL Server command prompt. You need to open the command prompt and then use the sqlcmd command to activate the SQL mode. We'll see them. Create the database. Now the syntax to create a database is this: create table followed by the table name, and then you have the field names in brackets separated by commas. If you have more than one field, you can separate it with commas. So every field entity consists of two subparts. First is a field name followed by the field type. A field type can be an integer, float or decimal point. It can even be a string. For example, you want to save your name, then you have to use a string variable type. You can have dates and you can have time. These are the most commonly used attributes of field types. Now let's consider the creation of a table called grocery items. So you have the fields which are item ID, item name, cost and date of purchase. You have the records. So the command for creation will be create table followed by the table name. Here it is item list followed by each field definitions. So every field definition consists of two subparts. First is a field name. Over here it is the item ID followed by the field type, which is an integer because it is used to store an integer. Over here again we have the field name and the field type. Where char means a variable character, which is basically a string or an array of characters. 15 specifies the maximum number of characters which any value in the item name category can store. And it is important that you note that we need not worry about the case of the field names. SQL is case insensitive, which means a small letter is equal to a capital letter. The last step is to run the command. So after typing your DDL command in the command prompt, type the command go, G-O, and press enter to run the SQL Server command. Now let's see a demo on how to create a database. The first step is to open the SQL Server command prompt. There are many ways. The simplest way is to click start, type cmd, and then open the command prompt. You can also open the command prompt from the run menu. Press Windows plus R, type cmd, press enter. There you have it. You can also try start all programs, accessories, and command prompt. So you can use either way. Now after you open the command prompt, type the command sqlcmd. There you are. Now you are in the SQL Server command prompt mode. You can see that the application title has changed to sqlcmd. This denotes that you are in the right path. Now is to create a table. How do you create a table? Create table, type the table name. We want to create a table called item list. Type item list. And then the field names, which are item ID. I want it to be an integer. And then you have the item name, which is a string. So we have varchar. I wanted to hold a maximum of 15 characters, so I give 15. And then you have the cost, which is a decimal, so I have float. And then the date of purchase. So date of purchase, field type is date. So this is a SQL command, which is a DDL command to create your distinct table. Now how do I execute this? Type go. There you are, your table is created. To exit, click EXIT. Now you are out of the SQL command prompt mode. To exit the command prompt, type exit. Summary. Creating a database involves analyzing the scenario and deciding on the structure, and creating the database schema using the appropriate DDL command. Thank you.